In this video, we're going to focus on JavaScript variables and their syntax. So variables are a concept that exists in every programming language out there, and the basic concept is always the same. A variable is a container that has a name on it, and inside of that container, we store some bit of data. So we saw the basic primitive types, things like strings and numbers and booleans, and variables are just a place, a container, a jar, where we can put one of those in and give it a name that we refer to later. And then of course, the name variable means that the data that we store in that jar, in the container, can change, it can vary. So variables are really important. They let us store some data and recall it later. So we could have a variable called current logged in user if we had a website with user login. And it would just know the username of the person who was logged in. And it could vary and it would change. And then as soon as someone logs out, it's then set to be empty or false or something. We could have another variable for our tic-tac-toe game called current turn. And it would switch between player 1 and player 2, player 1 and player 2. And that variable is in charge of knowing or keeping track of which player is supposed to be going at any given point. So the syntax for variables in JavaScript is very simple. It looks like this. The var keyword, var, space, a variable name, this is up to us, whatever we want the name to be called, the label for that container, equals sign, and then a value. And then a semicolon. We will talk a lot more about when you need semicolons. For now, everything we do, we'll be able to get away with a semicolon or not having a semicolon. When we talk about style and convention, we'll talk about that. But for now, put a semicolon at the end. So here's 3 examples of variables. The first one, var name. So I'm calling this container name, and I'm setting it equal to the string Rusty. The next one, I'm creating a variable called secret number, and I'm setting it equal to the number 73. And the last one, I'm making a variable is adorable, and I'm setting it equal to be true, the Boolean value. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to go ahead and open up my console here. And I'm going to go ahead and make a first variable. So my variable will be called name, and I'm going to set it equal to my wonderful dog, Rusty's name. And I'll hit enter. And what I've done now is say, JavaScript, I need you to make some space, and I need you to give that space a name called name, which is a little confusing, and set it equal to Rusty. So now whenever I ask for name, I just type the word name, it's going to give me Rusty, or whatever is stored in name. So the next thing is that I can change the value that's in there. So to do that, I just reassign it. I just say name equal sign, and I'll change it to be Tater. That's his terrible nickname that I give him. And now if I ask for name again, it's now Tater. So that's the important part of variables. They can change. They are variable. So in this example, I'm recalling the value of name and then concatenating it with hello there. So I'll just show you that. Let's make another variable, this time called friend, var friend equals Sally. And then all I do is say friend, let's do hello there, plus friend. And I made sure to add a space here so that when we add them together, we have a nice space in our sentence. And we get hello there, Sally. And then if I change that, and I now say friend is equal to no one, it's very sad, and I write the same line, hello there plus friend, I now get hello there, no one. So I'll also just show to you, we can store numbers in there as well. We can store any of the basic data types. So I'll make a number called var num equals, let's go with 43. And now whenever I refer to num, I get 43. And I can do math with that. So I can do something like num plus 100. And I get 143. Or I can do num mod 2. And I get 1. Another important concept about variables in JavaScript is that I can change their value, but I can also change their type. So let's say that I want to change the value of num to the string 50. I can do that very easily like this, num equals, and I could either write the number 50 in there or the string, the word version of 50. And it's okay that it's a string. It used to be a number beforehand, but I now changed it to a string. JavaScript doesn't care. As a side note, in some languages, that is a problem, and you can't do that. JavaScript has something called dynamic typing, which means that it can change from one type to another without problem. So the last thing about variables that I want to touch on is that there's a convention for how we name them. And if you notice here, they all follow camel case, and that means that the first letter is always lowercase, and then if we have another word, we uppercase the first letter of the new word. So camel case looks like this, camel case, and snake case, which is another case you may hear, uses underscores between words. And there's one more, often called kebab case, or dash case, which is you use a dash between words. So JavaScript variables should be camel cased.